Hey there, Business for Unicorns podcast listeners. This is Mark, and I'm here to tell you about an awesome free resource on businessforunicorns.com. If you ever find yourself feeling frustrated with your training gym because you know that there are all sorts of things you could work on, but you're not really sure how to prioritize, you don't know what's the most important thing to work on or what order you should be tackling your priorities, well, now is the time to go to businessforunicorns.com, click the button, and fill out our free self-assessment. With the Ultimate Training Gym Owner Report Card, you will gain immediate clarity on just where to be focusing your attention to create more positive impact on your community, to drive more revenue and take-home income, and to do it all with less stress and more peace of mind. So go to businessofunicorns.com, click the button, fill out that free self-assessment, and start building a business and life you love today.
Hello, fitness business nerds. Welcome to another episode of the Business for Unicorns podcast. Today, I'm stoked to have another roundtable episode with a few Unicorn Society members. And today, the topic is sales, which is so exciting because it's a really heavily requested topic on the podcast. And frankly, I probably just don't cover it enough considering how important it is. So today, I'm joined by Haylin and Ben, Unicorn Society members who you just heard about. Let's just welcome to the virtual stage and get this party started. What's up, gents? How are you?
Morning. Hi.
Hi. Thanks so much for being here. I so appreciate you both taking time to do this. So thank you. Let's just get this party started by just doing some quick little intros. They will have heard a little bit about you, but Ben, I want to hear one about how you doing, and two, what's your sales journey been like for you and your business? And the question I wanted you all to start with is, what has your approach and attitude been about sales over the length of having your business? So Ben, let's start with you first. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good. You have to ask these days because it's a topsy-turvy world. And tell me a little bit, what's your approach and attitude been about sales since you started your business?
So I've been self-employed for like 3 or 4 years in fitness before starting my business, and my only experience for fitness sales had been like someone in a group class is interested, I do an assessment, tell them about what I might do differently in the program, and hopefully they join.
Yeah.
So like broad strokes, not a bad approach, but like I didn't even think of it as sales. I'm just like, I wonder if I can help this person. I will add though, I did have, this isn't specifically my business, but I did have a job in university where I did door-to-door driveway sealing.
Ooh.
So they drop you off, you run around for 16 hours, try to door knock and convince people to get the driveway sealed. So that I think gave me a leg up when it came to sales because I was used to just getting like a ton of no's.
Wow. Yeah. I actually need my driveway sealed right now. So if you have any connections in the New York area, let me know.
Well, one of my takeaways was don't seal your driveway, but
okay, great. That's good to know. Got it. So yeah, keep going. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, it's fine. Then going into my actual business, like once I started my business, I had a very steep uphill climb. Like I had 3 clients who were in person when I opened my gym, renting space, and I officially started. And I had to learn. So I'd started, me and Haylin both did the same business coaching program way back when. And they were really big on like, get your sales process nailed. These are the steps. Here's how you handle objections. But my learning curve was like straight up because I went from let's do the FMS and see if you're a good candidate to like, I need to get leads and clients through the door yesterday.
Yeah. Good for you. I think it's great that you can reflect back and see that there was some early experience you had that really helped you out. And when you first started, it was a learning curve, right? It was learning, how do I figure out how to do this for my business in this moment with the team and setup I have right now? And I imagine it's grown and changed over the years.
Yeah, we're now using the ultimate sales script that you guys gave, and then we tweaked it for us. And then we have someone else who's not me doing the sales. And right now we're working on, can we train multiple people to do it so that it's not just like one straight salesperson. But yeah, I guess I kind of treated it like a necessity early on because I knew I was like pretty good at the fitness stuff and zero good at the sales stuff. And if I was going to have a business, I needed them to be neck and neck.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, thanks for sharing that, Ben. I appreciate it. How about you, Haylin? What's your journey been like in sales since you opened your business?
It is definitely started with a struggle. I would characterize my relationship with sales early on as oil and water. Um, I, I I was a shy guy. I think I am still a shy guy. I can fake it till I make it. Um, like Ben, my previous sales experience, well, I had no previous sales experience before I started this business, like whatsoever, nor really any business experience. I just decided to open a business and quickly realized that there's a lot more to running a training business than training people.
Sure.
So it was a real challenge at the beginning. I had to take on the hurdle of like, sales is icky, asking for money, all those things that people traditionally have discomfort around. I absolutely had those. Never mind, like having to engage people in conversations, which wasn't a strong skill of mine initially. And then, so I think I just got lucky in the beginning with the people that I signed up. Like there wasn't any skill involved. I certainly had to work through the challenge of like taking it personally when someone said no or didn't sign up. So it was really hard in the beginning. And I realized if I was actually going to have a business, it is something that I had to take on. And so over time, I am happy to say that I've really sort of fallen in love with the learning process of sales skill and what it means to actually do sales and transitioning from it about taking someone's money to thinking about it as an exchange in value and truly believing that we can actually help someone and realize that we can't help everyone. Not everyone is a good fit and being okay with that. And sort of a cliche that really resonates with me now and the way I think about sales is like high integrity, low attachment. So I really try and do my best, and I am genuinely committed to helping people.
Right.
And if they say no, and if they're not a great fit and they don't sign up, it doesn't change the rest of my day.
Yeah. Good for you. That's a tough lesson. I mean, so many people have to go through that period of it being really personal, and every no feels like a punch in the gut, or like I wasted all my time, or I'm never going to be good at this. And that idea, I think will really resonate with a lot of our listeners, right? Like high integrity. I'm going to do my best to really take care of people and give them great value for their money, and be honest. And I'm not going to be attached. I'm going to try and be detached enough that if I get a lot of no's or if I'm not the right fit, it won't ruin my day. That's hard. Good for you. How are you feeling these days about your sales?
It still ebbs and flows, but I feel much better about it. We've got a solid process in place, which I think is key. We can track what's working and what's not working. And I continually try new things and acknowledge like there's no one right way.
Yep.
Lots of different things can work for different people depending on who you are and how you want to approach sales.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Well said, Haylin. I think that's exactly it. I think we were talking about this a little bit before we started recording, is that, one way I like to think about sales in general, at least the framework that I put on it these days, is if you're a good salesperson, you're a good matchmaker, like an old school matchmaker, right? Who would try to match up people for marriage. And the reason I think of sales that way is because if you're right, then you have high integrity, that you really want to try and know the business and know what it can offer, and find people who it makes sense for and match them together. But sometimes matchmakers need to send people on many, many, many dates. And there's going to be a lot of no's along the way, right? You have to kiss a lot of toads. Is that the phrase? I don't know. I haven't dated in a while. But there's going to be a lot that don't work out, more than do work out. And your job is to just have really high integrity and and want the best for both parties. You want the best for the business to get the best possible people in so it lasts a long time. And you want the best for the people who come in the door, make sure they're the right fit and they're getting something out of it. And that is an iterative process. There's no one set of rules. There's no one process or policy or app that people can use that gets that right 100% of the time, right? And that kind of trial and error and uncertainty is a thing I think brings people a lot of anxiety. And it sounds like, you found a really good attitude about it, Haylin. You really have. Let's just talk about this one more second before we dive into the kind of nuts and bolts of sales. I want to talk about this kind of resistance people have to just selling, because you both mentioned it in your stories, and it is the number one barrier I see in people who come work with Business for Unicorns or join Unicorn Society, is people just feel icky even talking about sales, considering themselves doing sales, they feel icky about it. Everyone conjures up the images of used car salesmen or snake oil salespeople, all these things from yesteryear about how sales was so icky and people were so disingenuine. And that's not to say that there is no one that's icky and disingenuine today. There's plenty of icky salespeople. But my question is this: if you had to give some advice to our listeners about how do you overcome that sense of like ickiness about sales, what do you tell them? What's worked for you, Ben?
Yeah, like a couple things. First one, which is cliche, which is just get used to collecting no's.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would get hundreds of no's a day in the other job I mentioned. Sometimes it would be like people slamming the door in my face, being like, I have absolutely no interest. And like, it just builds up a little bit more of a thick skin. So that's similar to Haylin, as he mentioned, it's not like the biggest, most exciting point of your day and your biggest low if they say no. It's just like, hey, that thing just is.
Yeah.
And then the second thing I'd say is really view it as you're connecting people who may legitimately change their lives through your service with your service. They might not have known you existed until recently, because we're not going around door knocking trying to get them to do some nonsense service that they didn't even ask about. If we're getting leads coming through that are like, hey, your gym looks like it might be a good fit for me. Can we set up a time to chat to see what program might be best, or something to that degree? Like, this is someone being like, hey, I want to join. I want to know more. Can we get together and talk? And by you not following up with them or not following through, it's like you're actually robbing them of the potential to get the thing that they wanted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well said, my friend. I think it's a really great way to think about it. Is that you have an obligation. If you have ability to help someone, help them in any way, more energy, less fat, more muscle, more mobility, longer life, more energy, whatever it is that they want. If you have ability to help them get that and you don't follow through to make the connection, make yourself available and make that process easy for them, what are you doing? You're robbing them of the opportunity to get what they want in life. I think it's a great way of kind of twisting the perspective. What about you, Haylin? What tips do you have about what's worked for you?
Well, to be, I guess, frank, to start off, if you're going to be a training gym owner and you want to have a business, you've got to do sales and do it pretty well, or offload it.
Sure.
Right. Which at the beginning is probably hard to do.
Yeah.
So
you or someone has to do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I guess the second piece to that is like, how can you get yourself comfortable leaning into the discomfort and recognize it's not going to be easy. It's going to be like anything new. We all talk about anything new is uncomfortable at the beginning. And how can you just acknowledge that and work through the discomfort to get more comfortable with it? Because ultimately it is the key to your success. And maybe you don't want to do it forever. Maybe you learn you love it, like I have. And I don't claim to be any expert at sales, but I truly enjoy the process of learning about sales and continue to learn it. So I found a way which has helped me to fall in love with the process of learning sales and continuing and building the desire to get better and better at it. I think what has also helped me is realizing that it is a process, not just like a sales process, but people in all likelihood, they need to hear about you a bunch. They need to communicate with you a bunch of times. It is not typically immediately, hey, I'm interested in core principles, my business, and they sign up 10 minutes later. There's a bit of a process. In the past, we've talked about that, it's the dating process, right? Yep. The first date to marriage. And that ickiness and discomfort you talk about is when someone is maybe interested in going out on a blind date, and then you invite them back to your house for a sleepover 10 minutes into the date, right? That doesn't go over well with most people. There's a few mixed in there, but that's not most people's path.
Totally. Yeah, that's exactly it. I think the dating analogy is still a great one, Haylin, right? Because the people know that, they get it. And they've had to go, most people have had to go through a journey of getting comfortable being uncomfortable on dates. Right. And I think it's a great way to think about, okay, well, how did I do that? I think the same thing is true for most fitness professionals. Most fitness professionals I talk to, they didn't grow up immediately loving exercise and fitness, that they were uncomfortable for a little while. They thought they were the skinniest kid on the team, or the slowest kid on the track team, or the, whatever it is. And part of their journey on fitness was a process of getting comfortable, being uncomfortable, and then they learned to love it. And so I think that's a great way to think about it. Listeners, think back to a time in your life when you were really uncomfortable and you had to work at getting comfortable and better at it, and see if you can't take any lessons from that and apply it to sales. I think that's really smart, Haylin. Yeah. All right. Well, let's switch gears here, gents, because I want to talk about the kind of nuts and bolts of sales. And really, if we're going to talk about the nuts and bolts of sales from kind of top to bottom, it really kind of starts with marketing, right? Because you really can't do much sales without some marketing, because if the top of the funnel's dry, you got no one to take through your sales process. And so we're not going to do a deep dive into marketing. That's not today's conversation. But I'll just ask briefly, what has to be in place from your perspective in terms of marketing to have sales even work? So what needs to be working in marketing for the rest of the sales process to even be possible? I'll start with you this time, Haylin.
Sure. Well, at the highest level, people need to know that you exist.
Mm-hmm.
And I think once they know you exist, you need to make it easy for them to reach out and ask a question or raise their hand in some sort of way to express some interest or want to get more information.
Yeah, great. So, and that's it. What are all the ways you help people know you exist?
The most basic ways, right? Facebook ads we still use, so social media ads. We use some more other types of social media, Nextdoor and things like that.
Yep.
Referrals. We haven't recently done a lot of being out in public and actually interacting with other human beings, but I still think that is super valuable and probably underutilized.
Yeah. Great.
Those are the major ways.
Yeah, it's a great list. Some social media ads, some regular social media, other social medias, some referrals. I mean, these are really low-hanging fruit for us to make sure people know we exist. What about you, Ben? What has to be in place in marketing land for sales to even be possible?
Yeah, I'm with Haylin. We do a similar approach for lead gen. And then I'd say like obviously once people then know you exist, the next step is like letting them know, what do you do?
Yep.
Especially if you've got a gym name that isn't like quite as obvious.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of a good example now, but sometimes it's kind of a little bit of an abstract thing. Like that could be an accounting firm, that could be whatever. Then to be like, hey, we do, we help people who want to do X but don't like Y, as an example. We help people who want to get fit but don't love the gym.
Yeah. And how do people find that out? How do people find out what you do?
For us, we try to make that on the webpage above the fold. We try to incorporate a bit of like who we are and why we do what we do into all of our ads. And then especially when it comes to referrals, like really reinforcing our mission and our purpose with our members, so that when they're going to their friends, they're not just like, hey, I joined this gym and I like it. You might like it too.
Right.
To be like, this is what makes us different.
Got it. Yeah. Awesome. I think that's a great summary. I think that you're both spot on here, right? That the marketing needs to be in place. It's you need to have some process for letting more people know you exist on a regular basis and make it easy for them to know what you do and kind of take the first step or express interest. So let's take it from there. Walk me through the kind of nuts and bolts that kind of have worked or not worked for you, Ben, in terms of what is the sales process you take people through?
Yeah, so as soon as we get someone who says like, hey, I'm interested in learning more, like they're a lead, but we don't know if they're qualified yet, we have a 35-day follow-up sequence. So they get, I can't remember the number, it's like 10 or 12 contacts over about a month.
Mm-hmm.
And then our goal is to get them on like basically a discovery call or pre-qualification call to get to know a little bit more about their goals. Basically, we want to make sure they're a good fit for us and we're a good fit for them. We don't want to have a consultation with someone who like doesn't live close enough that they're willing to drive, for instance.
Yep.
And that phone call, the other aspect of it is that really builds excitement for the consult. Like we have a really low no-show rate for consultations. Like people will still cancel, but they'll almost always let us know because we've started to build a relationship before they've like walked into the door. Because sometimes walking through that door can be like a really nervous step for people. So if we can like get them feeling good, that's a huge win. So tons of follow-up, book the discovery call. From there, it's either yes or no into booking a consultation. And then from the consultation, it's typically start with like a low barrier offer. Currently, it's a 28-day trial, and then convert to an actual membership.
Yeah, Amazing. Let me just ask a few follow-up questions. So during that, there was a really clear walkthrough. So thank you. During that first 35 days when you're doing the outreach, what does that outreach look like? Are you talking about phone calls, texts, emails, all of the above, one of the above?
Yeah, all of the above, basically. So I think it's for the first 3 days, we'll reach out to them twice a day.
Mhm.
Like if we call them and they don't answer, we'll send them a text. That type of thing, and then we go down to like twice a week for the remainder of it. We kind of just rotate calls, texts, and emails. I'm aware that for most gyms, calls might not be the best option, but because our average clientele is like 52 and up, we still get people who like screen calls. We send a text and they call us back, but a lot of people will actually pick up the phone because I'm dealing with like an older population.
Sure. Yeah, that's great. And then when you're doing that pre-qualification call or that screen or whatever you call it before they come in, what's the important components of there? I mean, what are you trying to accomplish on that call?
Yeah, really like get to know their goals, get a feel for budget and schedule to make sure they are a good fit. I mean, schedule is rarely an obstacle, but you never know. And then, like I mentioned, the most important piece is like get them excited about potentially coming in. So we typically use that call to build value. So if you're talking to us and you're like, yeah, I've been struggling to lose some weight because my back hurts, we'll talk about like, we aren't really good with low back rehabs. We'll talk about, oh, this is another client story. Here's the type of thing we do. We've got a couple different service offerings. Here's generally what you'll be looking at per price point, depending on what you're, how many times a week you want to come, et cetera.
Sure.
So it's like, can we help them? Can they afford us and actually physically come to us? And like, can we get like, are we both mutually excited about a consultation, but specifically, are they excited about coming in?
Yeah, I love that. I think it's so smart to do this kind of pre-qualifying call because it helps check all those boxes. Do I know your goals? Can we help you with those? Do you like us? Is the price point right? Is the scheduling right? Right. Now, I recommend doing this very similar thing when you're hiring a new employee, right? Is your first call with them should also be this like, are we a good fit? Before we go any further, right? Does all of this work? Can I pay you the right amount? Does the schedule work? Because then it also makes it feel like they've made a friend who they are going to know when they walk in the door the first time, right? That they're going to walk into a door, not a building full of strangers, but someone they've already connected with, which I think is really smart. Cool.
Yeah.
Let's save the in-person consultation till later. I'm going to circle back to that because I'm sure we'll talk about it for a while. But what about you, Haylin? What's your sales process looking like these days?
It's not all that dissimilar from Ben's.
I bet,
starts, with significant follow-up. So I'm going to double down on the idea of following up with people. We've realized it to be how important it is. We realized how important it is. Consistent follow-up is. Look, for us, most people have raised their hand and expressed some interest. So we're not really being a pain, but we do acknowledge that we're following up consistently and frequently. Let people know it's okay if you don't get back to us. We're going to continue to follow up because you've reached out.
Yep.
And it is a layering approach of texts, phone calls, and emails to people. And just like Ben said, some people won't pick up the phone, but they'll see a text from us. I think we're just I'm trying to create a layer of like comfort, like get to know this guy a little bit, follow up in a human way, not try and be super aggressive, let people know that we're here to help. Also acknowledge that if people have reached out and raised their hand, there's probably something they're not completely satisfied with around their health and fitness. Otherwise, they wouldn't reach out. And when we do ultimately get people engaged in a conversation, one of the things we want to highlight is how easy we make it to get started.
Sure.
We want to get rid of any friction. And it's normal to be a little bit apprehensive, particularly for us. We're really targeting people that have not been avid gym goers. They don't really like the gym. So it is going to feel a little bit uncomfortable, and that's okay. That's normal. That's where everyone else is at when they get started here. Our job is to make it easy and make you comfortable as quickly as possible.
Great. Yeah. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Ben.
Kind of as Haylin mentioned, which I think is worth a add-on, because I believe we do it the same way, Haylin. It's like, it's a human follow-up. It's not, hi, this is Ben following up again. Call me back. Hi, this is Ben following up for the third time. Like, it's like, hey, I know I've called you a few times. I don't want to feel like I'm harassing you, but like, I'm going to keep reaching out until you answer me. And like, you leave voicemails that would be the same way you'd be like, if I reached out to you, might go over a few days and I hadn't heard back, be like, hey man, are you okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's the type of, like, it initially starts the conversation in a way where, like, say, like I said, they have a friend and there's less friction rather than every other gym is, hey, your trial's about to expire. Oh, your thing's about to expire. If you don't call us back in 2 days, you lose that discount. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, we're just trying to have a conversation.
Yeah, it's so robotic, right? It's like you wouldn't treat a friend that way who you're trying to get in touch with, right? And so I think you're right that especially when you're using text where people can't hear your tone, it's so important to make it friendly, right? You better be using a shit ton of emojis, right? And smiley faces and sparkles, right? Regardless of your brand, right? It just shows tone and intention to make sure I'm not mad, I'm not not trying to shame you for not getting back to me. Just making it clear that you reached out. I'm going to keep hounding you until you tell me not to, because you said you want this. And so, and I know people get busy, so no stress. I'm here for you whenever you're ready. And I'll just keep reaching out twice a week for the next few weeks. So let me know when you're ready. And I think that people hesitate to do that much follow-up. But here's a quick example. I am this person that needs that follow-up. I just 2 weeks ago, I want a hot tub. That's what we're talking about. I want a hot tub real bad. So I put a bunch of website inquiries into a bunch of places because hot tubs are hard to come by. And there's one place that I really want to do. So I put an inquiry in for like a consult, try to book a consultation, and they get back to you within like a week or something. And I know they've gotten back to me. I know they've emailed me 3 or 4 times. I've just been too busy. But the fact that their email keeps coming through tells me they're the first person I'm going to turn to when it's time to take the next step on a hot tub. Right. And if they didn't do that, if they didn't consistently follow up, I might just forgot that they were the ones who I wanted to work with. Right. And so that consistent follow-up is so important. And Haylin, I'll ask you, why do you think people are so nervous about following up consistently? Because that's another thing I hear a ton with Unicorn Society members. It's like, I just don't want to bother them. I just feel bad following up too much. I don't want to bug them. Like, talk me through how to get over that.
Well, the first part is there's a story we make up that we're going to be annoying.
Yeah.
And it is annoying if you're doing the robotic, hey, this is Haylin from Core Principles again, blah, 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 the sort of robotic voice, the annoying voice messages we all got about our car warranty expiring or the default on our student loan, whether we have them or not. And like, it's obnoxious.
Yeah.
But it is a good question. Why we're so fearful that we're going to be annoying.
Well, I think you're right. I think the first step there is like dismantling that story. It's like, where did the idea come from that you're going to be so annoying? Did someone tell you were annoying? Right? Like, where does that idea even come from? And oftentimes when you ask people that, they're like, no, I just feel bad. Well, stop feeling bad. Feel bad about not having sales. Don't feel bad about trying. Right?
What has been helpful is after we follow up a number of times, and I'll just say like, hey, Michael, you reached out a few days ago. I know I followed up a bunch. If you're no longer interested, that's cool. Just let me know. I don't want to be a pain. And at that point, many people do say, no, I am interested. I've been just busy. So like when you give them permission to say no, or to say what you think they might be thinking, like that comes across, that really, I think, solidifies the relationship and your desire to actually help. Like, say, I don't want to be a pain. I just want to be helpful. So if you're not interested right now, all good. I don't want to waste my time or yours.
Yeah. Well said, Haylin. I think that's right. I think that's part of approaching this in a really human way, is that like, it's like, hey, if you want me to stop following up with you, I will. Just let me know. But until then, I'm going to assume you're just a little busy, and I'm going to help make it easy for you to get started by reminding you a few times per week. And they'll let you know. People have no problem unsubscribing, right? People have no problem texting back, unsubscribe, or stop contacting me. People will let you know when they want you to leave them alone. So I think you're right, Haylin. I think that's a great way to approach it. Is just like, give them an exit, give them a way to get out, and then proceed confidently. Right. All right. Well, let's do this. I know I want to, wrap it up in the next 5-10 minutes. So let's cover this. I think one of the most important and maybe challenging parts of a sales process is this kind of in-person consultation. So for those our listeners who do a consultation, what we're talking about is after all the steps that Ben and Haylin just mentioned, they usually come in for a visit, and usually people do a 30-minute, 45-minute, 60-minute kind of consultation. There's usually some sort of tour or show and tell or brief workout or conversation where you get them to commit to either a trial or a membership. And so in that, and there's a lot of people who really struggle with this, in part because they feel like it's a really daunting hour to design. They're not sure how to design this conversation over an hour. And they get really nervous about the part at the end where you ask for money. And so kind of walk me through, I'll start with you, Ben, this time. Walk me through, when people come in for that first visit, what are the key elements you're trying to achieve there?
Yeah, like broad strokes, key elements are like give them a warm welcome and give them a quick tour of the studio. Because we had the phone call in advance, we now know what their obstacles are. So we make sure we're like highlighting the parts of the studio. So it's like functional training for strength is going to be a different pitch than functional training for injury rehab. Then we get them to do a little bit of paperwork, just sign waivers, especially now we legally need them to sign a COVID waiver.
Yep.
It's like the first 10 minutes tour in that. After that, it's really like, as you guys called it, peeling the onion. What are your goals? What are your obstacles? What's gotten in the way in the past? How committed to making a change? Like really probing, like not just what are your obstacles? Oh, okay. Like, why is that an obstacle? How has that shown up before? Really getting the motivational interviewing and coaching conversation questions drilled in.
Yep.
That'll be 20-ish minutes. And then from there, it's purely just like building value from what we do with how does that bridge the gap between where they are now and where they want to go. And then an A/B, like I think you'd be best off with this program on an A-long membership or a B-long membership, what's best for you. But honestly, we typically just start with like the low barrier offer. So it's tour, peel the onion and really get to know them. Like they're just, the better questions you ask, the more ammunition they're giving you for you to be able to help them. And then make the offer, and then at the end give them like a warm kind of exit, like get them excited about the next step of, hey, we're looking forward to seeing you for your first session in 2 days at 9 a.m.
Got it. I love that. I also love what you said about the tour, because so often people treat that like a tour of the facility, and that's not what's going on there, right? It should be like a show and tell, right? It should be like a show and tell of the things that matter to them and their goals. So every walk through the space should be about building value. Here's not like what we do here, but here's why we do the things in this room that will benefit you, right? Here's why this equipment will be useful for you to learn how to use, right? Because we're connecting every single step of that tour to their goals. Yeah. Great outline. Yeah. What about you, Haylin? I imagine yours is not incredibly different, but walk me through what you do in the first contact.
Yeah, not all that dissimilar. My first objective when somebody comes in is to make them comfortable. And so, and again, for us, we have people who don't really love the gym or not historically gym goers. So we're proud to show off our space that doesn't look so much like a big, overwhelming gym that most people stereotypically think about.
Yep.
So how can we make them comfortable initially? And then I know Ben does this as well. You might have just skipped it. Is that like, just set some expectations. What's going to happen over the next 30, 40-ish minutes, and just get comfortable so they know what we're going to be doing. And like, we're going to talk about your goals a little bit more. We're going to talk about where you're at right now and where you want to go and what we think might be in the way and how we're going to help you bridge that gap. I think that gap is an important piece to identify as like, this is where you're at right now. This is where you want to go. What's been preventing you from getting across that bridge?
Yep.
And it's totally okay. Most people have the same challenges of crossing that bridge. Our job is to be your little Sherpa to get you over that bridge this time.
Yeah. Can I interrupt for a second, Haylin? What I love about you getting so clear about what the gap is I've learned from many ninjas I worked with at MFF that was the first time for many of them they articulated out loud what that gap was. Right? They might know it a little bit, they might have experienced for a long time, but they haven't talked with anyone about it or said out loud, the issue is I just blank, right? And so when you can help them really get clear about where they want to go and what's stopping them, that's really a powerful moment for a lot of people. And that in of itself helps build trust and rapport and, clarity of purpose here. So I just love that you get really specific about it. So keep on going.
Thanks. So we've identified the gap. And then I go back to what I said before earlier. It's like, how can we make it so easy for you to get started that you almost can't say no? And so I begin to think about that as like, after we've clearly articulated how we can help, what does the offer look like to get started? And it just, again, tying the offer to what you call like where they want to end up, their destination. I'll use the vacation to Hawaii analogy again, because I just listened to it. No one gives a crap about like the 747 hanging out in the airport, flying to Hawaii, but they do care about the warm air that hits their face when they step off the plane, the luau, the palm trees, sitting on the North Shore and watching the surfers, all the things they're going to remember for years to come.
Yep.
That's really what we want to tie the conversation to. What is the desirable outcome that people want? And then how can I make it so easy to get started that like it is an absolute no-brainer for you, whether it's a money-back guarantee, whether it's a trial with no obligation to continue, and highlighting all the little bits and pieces you're going to get along the way that, again, are tied to your destination. No one cares about like the training itself. They want to know what it's actually going to get them to.
Yeah. Well said. Great outline, my friend. Yeah, you both crushed it. I don't know if I have anything to add. I think those are really great outlines of what a good hour long looks like with a first time client. I think there's two ideas maybe I'm gonna underscore to kind of wrap up this part of our chat. One is, and you both said this in different ways, but one of the most important things needs to happen during someone's first visit is that you need to create a sense of psychological safety for them, right? There needs to be a sense of, oh, I can be seen and heard here. I can be myself. I'm not going to be judged or shamed. And if you can create that kind of space for them, then you can carry on and do the rest. But if you don't check that box and, as Haylin said, make them feel really comfortable and set clear expectations, it's going to be really hard to do the rest. They're going to be on guard the whole time if they don't feel like it's a safe space. So I just think that's so key. And you both hit that on the nail in different ways. And then the second thing I just want to stress that, is kind of a meta concept for what happens in this first hour is that it should be really consistent. Meaning the content of the conversation will be wildly different depending on each client that walks in the door. But both of you listed out a process that is step by step, and you hit all of those steps with every client every time. And the reason this is so important is because we want to track our conversion percentage, right? And we're not going to have time to talk a ton about tracking here, but one of the things you need to know is for every 10 people that I do a consultation for, how many buy a trial or become a member? And the only way to consistently have that number be useful is if your process is consistent. Right? If you're just winging it every time someone walks in the door, there's no telling about whether or not they didn't convert because of you or because of them or because of your process. And so the process has to be the variable that doesn't change, so that you know that if you're not converting, something's to change in the process. And if you are converting, the process must be pretty damn good. Right? But without that consistency, and I know a lot of people that I've talked to just really resist having that be consistent. Like, oh, if I come up with that outline or a script, I just won't be able to be myself. It's like, well, that's pretty much bullshit. I mean, we follow steps and paths all the time that are predetermined for us, and we can still show up as our authentic selves in that path. And so, I just really challenge any listeners out there, like, I can't possibly have a sales process that's written down. I can't possibly have a script that I learn. Then I'm going to challenge you to go try it. Try it for a few months and see if it improves things. And I almost guarantee that it will. And if it doesn't, you'll learn what's not working. You'll learn what's not working. And as you heard both Ben and Haylin say here, that like it's not like being a robot. We're not talking about creating scripts so you sound like an automaton, right? It's so that you can be consistent, right? You want to infuse it with your own personality, but you have to be consistent. Yeah. Any other big picture tips you want to leave our listeners with when it comes to either the sales consultation or the whole sales process in general? Any big picture ideas that really kind of guide you both? How about you, Haylin?
Give me one more second to think.
Yeah, Ben, go for it. Yeah.
I've really reframed sales for myself as the first step of service.
Mm-hmm.
So that doesn't mean that I don't get a little bit nervous when I'm following up with somebody for the 8th time in 3 weeks. Of course, I'm like, ooh, what are they going to think? But it really is like every time you're trying to convince someone to do anything, there's a small element of sales to that. Our team just read Daniel Pink's To Sell Is Human, and a lot of the book was not super useful, but there's some really, really key points. Like you asking us to be on the podcast today, there's a small element of sales to get us to do this thing.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm trying to get my coach to cover a shift that they didn't really want to do, there's a small element to sales. If I'm going to hire a new staff member, I'm selling them on working with us. So I've really enjoyed reframing it as where else am I doing quote unquote sales in my life?
Yeah.
I'm trying to get my kid to do his chores, to fill the dishwasher so we can get $5 at the end of the week. I'm selling him on doing this thing. Yeah. And especially in fitness, when it's something where I'm imagining most gym owners who aren't good at sales are probably really good at training, and they decided to open their own space because they thought they could do it a better way. It's sales is the way that you actually get people to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think well said, my friend. I love that you threw out Daniel Pink's books. I think there's a lot of good tips in there that help reframe sales. We all sell all the time. And if you got into this industry because you want to help people, you got to sell them first. Can't help them until they know and like and trust you enough to work with you. And that's marketing and sales. So yeah, it's a kind of a necessary first step to be of service to anyone. Yeah, I love that. Haylin, anything come to you? Any big picture ideas?
Yeah, I'll double down on your idea of process.
Great.
I know it's really attractive to just feel like you're going to wing it and just be a gleaming personality and magnetic personality that are just going to move people along. But
Yeah.
I do think it's essential to have a process so that you can be consistent and see what's working and what's not. And so it allows you to try out new things, right? So you can sort of wing it, but just work the winging pieces into the process and do it enough to see if your winging it actually works.
Yeah. 100%. You want to think of it like, put your scientist hat on and like, I'm going to test this hypothesis. Does it work? I'm going to test this hypothesis. So you want to test new things. Cool. But like methodically test them, right? Like fold it into your process and try it for a little while, measure the outcomes, and then decide whether or not it's a permanent fixture, Sorry, keep going. You were going to say something else.
No, the second piece that comes up is it's been beneficial for me to consistently remind myself that we are offering people something that they truly want. Mm-hmm. We're not trying to convince them that they need a new TV, 2 years after they bought their last TV, right?
Yep.
There's something that is unsettled in their life around their health and fitness or how they feel about themselves. And they want to make some change around that. There's some friction around like how they're acting in line with who they think they actually are. And they want some help with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're here to help them do that.
Beautifully said. I think it's a great way to wrap up our conversation here. So thank you both for doing this. I think it was really fantastic. I'm just so impressed that in this 40-minute conversation, which is longer than I thought it was going to be, we covered so much. We covered so many of the nuts and bolts of sales. We covered a little bit about, how it feels to try and create a sales process, things that got in our way. So thank you both for showing up, being so open and candid. If people want to learn more about you or your business, Haylin, where can they find you on the interwebs?
The interwebs can be coreprinciplespt.com for our website.
Great.
And then,
are there any social medias that you're particularly active on?
We are active on Facebook. We are not Instagrammers, but
Great.
You can track us down on
the old Facebook.
Facebook. And if you're local, Nextdoor, something we're pursuing heavily.
Oh, good. Yeah, I've heard fun things about Nextdoor. Yeah, amazing. Awesome. What about you, Ben? How do people find you and your business on the interwebs?
So if you want to find Lean Strong Fitness on Facebook and Instagram, we're Lean Strong Fitness and Wellness, blue logo. And then our website is lsfit.ca. And then if you want to find me for Business for Unicorn stuff, I'm on the BFU website.
Yeah, exactly. For those of you who don't remember, Ben is a coach at Business for Unicorns, so you can work with him. We'll include his information down below in the show notes. Thank you so much for this, gents. It was a real pleasure and delight. I really appreciate you both so much. Go enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Michael.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, I hope you loved today's podcast, and forgive me, I want to remind you one more time, if you haven't already done so, head over to businessforunicorns.com, click the button, and get your free self-assessment, the ultimate training gym owner report card. I promise you're going to want to dig into this resource and get the support you need, finding crystal clarity on exactly where you need to be focusing to create a life and a business you love.